What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today's video is going to be another Instagram question and answer. It's going to be really quick. We'll get through all the questions. It'll probably be about 10-15 minutes. If you want your questions answered, go to @noah.cavanaugh on Instagram, hit that follow button, and on Mondays, early in the morning Pacific Standard Time, I post a story. You can put your questions in there and then we'll get to them right away. So without further ado, guys, let's hop into the video. All right, question number one is, what was your experience with the hardness of Australian pitches? Now, I think part of it could be the injury that I got in my foot, part of it could be the boots, but I definitely think the hardness of the Australian pitches was something that I noticed. It wasn't as soft, like you don't really get soft ground in Australia. A lot of times it's either, for those of you who haven't been there, it's oftentimes sand-based or it's clay-based, so it's a lot more hard, especially when you're wearing firm ground studs or soft ground studs. I wore soft ground a couple times when it was really downpouring rain, which was warranted, but in the case of most of the games, it was just very, very tough on my feet and really tough on my joints. To be fair though, at the end of the day, proper recovery, I think you should be absolutely fine with that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, it's really about how you recover, how you take care of your feet. But what I would recommend is if you can get one of those spiky balls, and I have one upstairs that I can show you, or I'll put an Amazon link down below, it'll be super easy to get to. Basically, it's a little ball that has a little bit of softness to it, but it's got little rubber spikes all around that obviously are rounded. They're not going to hurt you in any way. But what you do is you rub on the ground, on the sole of your foot, and it really helps to break up some of that tension that's in the bottom of your foot, especially when you play on pitches like that. Make sure to get all sorts of recovery, stretching, and do your prehab as well. So overall, I think, yeah, they're a little bit noticeably harder than pitches in the United States or other places in the world, but it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day, and you can always find good pitches to play on in Australia. Question number two, the best quality to have in a winger when you play left back or right back. So this is a fantastic question. I think it is really important just to understand that as left backs and right backs, as outside backs, wing backs, whatever you want to call us, we have to deal with really crafty wingers all the time. And the one thing that I think above all else is the most important quality for a winger to have that makes it really difficult for me to defend and most other right backs and left backs is unpredictability. And unpredictability can be anything from I'm going to go inside the first time, outside the next time, to all sorts of skill moves, to I'm going to pass it off really easy one time and then all of a sudden I'm going to turn and take him on the next time. Everything like that is really important for wingers to have, and it makes our job as outside backs defending really, really difficult. So it's super, super important as a winger that your number one priority during a game is to mix it up. Really make it difficult for the outside back to latch on to the one thing that you do really well. Because if I know that a player is right-footed, I'm going to put him on my left, knowing that he'll try and cut back onto his right, and then I can jump in. But if that player has gone left and then right and then left and then maybe goes right a couple times and then comes back to the left and can use both feet, excuse me, that is something that is so, so, so hard to defend. And it takes me an extra step in my mind to figure out, okay, now I've got to read split second what he's going to do on a play-to-play basis. So unpredictability is the most important thing for a winger to have and the hardest to defend as an outside back. Question number three, favorite place to shoot from? Everywhere, dude. I love to shoot the ball and I love to score goals from outside the box. A goal is a goal at the end of the day, and that's the most important thing. But I would say as a left back or a right back, I love cutting in and hitting that top far corner. I think that's one of my favorite places to shoot, right outside the 18 on the corner coming in. So I would say that's a big one for me. I think PKs are also really fun. Free kicks are also really fun. So those are great. But at the end of the day, shooting from a in-play game or in-game play, I guess, those are the absolute best to shoot from anywhere outside the box. I'll shoot from inside the box. I'll do tap-ins as well. Again, a goal is a goal, but absolutely love those long-range bangers because I score quite a bit of them in training and in games. Question number four. If you were playing international football, and you got a call up from Ireland and Germany, what would you play for, or who would you play for? That's a great question. I think it depends on a couple things. I think it depends on where my family lives. I think it depends on where the best coach is, where teammates that I know are, and it also depends on playing time, because if I'm gonna go and be a starter for Germany and a starter for Ireland, I'd probably go to Germany because they're a better team and it's playing around better players. That being said, if I was gonna start on Ireland and maybe captain the team, but I'd be like maybe 12th or 13th player on Germany, I'd probably go play for Ireland because I think that'd be super fun and I want to get international games in. So at the end of the day, it's kind of a toss-up for me. I don't really think that playing for any particular team is a huge deal. I think getting an international call-up in the first place is a pretty incredible honor, and I think regardless of who you decide to represent, I think that is something that is super, super cool. So congrats if you did get one, and if you are still deciding and you want to choose, I would say go with your gut and pick which one you think would be the best. Also, language barrier, if you technically are Irish German, but you don't actually play or don't actually speak German, that might be a little difficult for you. So that's something to think about as well. And obviously, however far away from your family you want to live. Question number 5, who will win the EPL? I think there are a couple teams that could win the EPL this year. I could see City winning it again because they've got Grealish now and they're just an absolute force. They won't be getting Messi, obviously, because of his sort of sad situation, but he'll probably go to PSG or to another. Well, I guess between City and PSG, there aren't very many clubs who can afford him, but that's not the question. So I would say City is my first pick for, and again, EPL for me is sort of I just want to watch the best football, so I don't really care who wins. City would be awesome to see win. I think that's my first choice. Liverpool's up there, United are up there, especially with Sancho now. And then I would say, I think there's going to be a dark horse. I think Tottenham could come, especially with the new manager. I think he could do a really good job. Nunez, I think his name is. But I think there could be a couple really, really good contenders. But I think City's my first choice. Question 6, are you currently injured? Yes and no. Technically, I am on the injured list in my agency, but I am now able to swim and run almost full time now. I'm able to do juggling, passing, almost everything except for the really, really hard running and the distance running and some of the full-time training stuff. So I can start to do some agility drills. I'm actually getting into a lot of PT stuff with the ladder and some other really awesome plyometric exercises. So that is awesome. I am about a month and a half away from looking into signing a professional contract. That's sort of the timing. So yes, still quote unquote injured, but not injured as far as I can't do anything anymore. So on my way up, very excited for the next couple steps in my career. Question number 7, what team are you currently playing for? I am a free agent. I was playing for Rockingham City FC in the National Premier League down in Australia in Perth, right outside of Perth. And now that I broke contract to come home to get surgery, I am technically a free agent. So that is my current situation. Looking for, as I mentioned in the last question, looking for a contract in the next month and a half to 2 months. Question 8, favorite boot of all time. That is probably the hardest question I think I've ever answered. If I had to pick one boot that I loved more than anyone else, it would probably be Hypervenom 3. I thought those boots were just outrageously comfortable. They were wide enough for my feet. They were light. They had a fantastic hybrid traction. So between conical studs and chevron studs, so you got the best of both worlds. I thought those boots were, it was a mistake that Nike got rid of those boots. So those are, Hypervenom 3 is probably my favorite boot of all time. Question 9, how much player personality outside the pitch makes a difference in a game or match? Actually a pretty big difference. I know guys that sort of have the alter ego when they get on the pitch. It's sort of a different person than the person who's off the pitch. But I would say for the most part, I think you play better when you're congruent with who you are, and any incongruency is sort of not a good thing for your soul, and it's also not a good thing for your play because it's sort of like pretending to be somebody else. That being said, again, as I mentioned before, there are people who I know who get into a total alter ego state and they're able to convincingly have that be their mindset as they move into a game type situation. But I would say for the most part, really driven, hungry type people on the outside of the pitch, i.e. those who are business owners, they are doing coaching on the side, they're really going after life, are the guys that are also the best players that I've played with and the most tenacious and the most just hungry to get after it in every way they possibly can. And the opposite is true for the person who's a little lazy off the pitch. Usually they're pretty lazy players as well. So yeah, I think they're mostly congruent. I would say if you can get your life in order outside the football pitch, and you get your stuff organized and you start having purpose in your life, I think there are so many benefits on the pitch that you'll see become congruent with what you are offering and what you're doing off the pitch. Question 10, what's your go-to skill to beat a defender one-on-one? Mine is simply just an Iniesta move, so the inside foot around a defender, or it's a simple body feint and go to a side. I really like those types of moves. I would say the most effective that I use is a 1-2, because 2 players against 1 is always better than a 1v1. Obviously you can do 1v1s and that's totally fine. I think my favorite though is that 2v1 situation where it's just a simple wall pass and you really confuse the defender as to where you're going. So I think that's probably my favorite, but my go-to skill if I'm gonna beat a defender 1v1 is just cutting outside, cutting inside, or cutting inside, cutting outside. I'm not at full pace. It's pretty difficult for me to do like an elastico move, but imagine that with a step in between. So sort of like Messi did to Boateng in that absolutely amazing Barcelona Bayern Munich game that you should definitely go watch. It was a Champions League semifinal, I believe, in 2015, quarterfinal or semifinal in 2015 when they won. Barca won the Champions League. That move where he goes inside him, outside him, and Boateng fell over, that's the move that I like to use, except I go inside, outside, or outside, inside. It doesn't really matter, but that's really helpful because you get a defender going one way and then you change directions really quick. It's very hard to defend. Guys, that is it for the video. Thanks so much for joining me for another question and answer. Again, go to my Instagram, hit that follow. Make sure you go and check out the stuff that's on my Instagram. I post all sorts of between the scenes and behind the scenes stuff with my YouTube, so you get a little bit of a different side of me as a player and a person at noah.cavanaugh. Definitely put your questions down in the comment section below and I'll add them to next week's Q&A. And you can also go to my Instagram at noah.cavanaugh and put them on Monday morning Pacific Standard Time. I will have a story that's got a little Q&A in there as well. So do that. So excited to answer all your questions. If you do want them answered more privately, definitely go into my Instagram DMs, shoot me a DM. I answer requests, I answer general messages, private messages, all that stuff as well. So definitely feel free to reach out. Always happy to give advice where I can or connect you with people who I know who know the answers better than I do. That's it for the video, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next